Welcome to This Week in Missouri Politics. Big week in Missouri politics. The legislature back at work. And we are joined by a guest we've tried many, many times to have on the show. And I'm very glad to welcome Senator Rob Schaaf to the show. Thank you for coming.
It's good to be here.
So it seems like a lot of issues are moving. A lot of the legislative machinery is operating. However, whether people like to admit it or not, one thing that's hung over the whole session since the state of the state has been the governor, his now increasing scandals. The last week, Attorney General Josh Hawley came with an extremely forceful press conference. Last night on Fox News, he said the situation regarding the governor's legal problems is dire and grave. You're a straight shooter. What's going on?
Well, I think that the governor doesn't want to give up. He's in it for the long haul, and I think he would almost have to be forced out if he's going to be gone. I just don't see him resigning. With
an FBI, with a circuit attorney, with the House of Representatives, with the Attorney General investigating seemingly different things. You've been a critic of the governor. It seems like it validates most criticisms of Eric Greitens, the fact that he continues to put the state through this.
Well, it's hurting the Republican Party, too. You know, I saw some polling. You probably saw the same polling. Well, the governor's numbers are really low, and so are the Republican parties, and the sitting legislators are equally low across the board. I mean, all over Missouri.
There's a seat that adjoins yours in Clay County. Senator Sylvie, not a typical candidate, very good politician, very, very strong public servant. Held that seat for 2 terms. It almost feels like they're tying their one arm behind Kevin Corlew's back to try to keep it.
Mm-hmm. It does. Really, the best thing that could happen for the Republican Party would be for Governor Greitens to step down and just go away.
Well,
but of course, the Democrats wouldn't want that to happen. I mean, they probably want Greitens to stick around and continue to be a chain around the neck of the party.
You're someone that talks to both sides of the aisle. When a bill goes to the Senate floor, the rumors up there where I get to sit in the popcorn gallery are where's Schaaf on this. You really can't argue. If you're a trial attorney, if you're a labor union, if you're really any traditional Democratic interest, it's very much in your interest for Eric Greitens to stay.
Totally agree. They benefit from the fallout that's coming down on the Republicans as a result.
So let me ask you, you're the perfect person to have this week. The top Senate race, it was when you ran 8 years ago as the 34th. Primary and a general. It looks like the best potential to pick up a seat in November for the Democrats, maybe the 34th. The hottest primary is the 34th. You have Representative Marshall. You have Mr. Luke DeMeyer, Harry Roberts, the Buchanan County presiding commissioner. I remember that race. I did a little bit of a sign putting up on that way back in the day, and I remembered you held Buchanan County very well. Platte County, you got enough, and you won the race pretty convincingly. However, there was an interesting development. A Democrat county official filed as a Republican. Tell me what's really happening in St. Joseph.
Well, I believe that Luke DeMeyer's backers recruited Scott Van Meter, the 5-time Democrat assessor, to run in Buchanan County to split the Buchanan County vote and advantage Luke DeMeyer over Harry Roberts. I mean, it's just as clear as crystal. And you've got the main player there is Todd Graves, head of the Missouri Republican Party. You know, Todd is on the board of directors of Herzog Contracting Company. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that Scott Van Meter's father worked for Herzog until he passed away a few months ago, and that Scott Van Meter's brother actually works for Herzog's now? And did you know that the Graves Garrett law firm actually hired Lucinda Luetkemeyer, Tony Luetkemeier's wife, years ago, before she went to become the chief legal counsel of the governor in the governor's office?
Look, it's an odd thing. Back home in the Boot Hill, we never had the Senate seat in Poplar Bluff. Bill Foster won the Senate seat. There was some tumult around Rob Mayer coming in. Now Doug Leibled's a senator, and most folks in Butler County are awful keen on keeping that senator from Butler County. You'd think folks in Buchanan County would have their dander up a little.
Well, you know, if your senator is from that county, doesn't have to drive very far to go to your meetings. You know, if you're a county away, 50 miles, you know, is a long way. You're not gonna have your senator there as often. Doesn't go and see you in the grocery store as much. You know, you can, you know, people that live around me see me a lot. They talk to me. They interact with me. there is an advantage to having your senator
Sure.
from, I mean, Platte County wants theirs there. Todd Graves lives in Platte County. He probably wants his senator to be from Platte County. People in Buchanan want Harry Roberts to be theirs, just naturally. Scott Van Meter's been a long-time assessor. He's got a lot of friends. I'm sure that they thought, well, if we get him to run, a lot of those people who would normally vote for Harry Roberts will vote for Scott Van Meter. I mean, it's very clear, but it's just as dirty
Who
as
you
it can
endorsing?
be. Who? What? Do I endorse?
Yeah.
Well, see, I will endorse when it's the appropriate time.
Sometime after
When
session, I assume?
I don't know. I'll just leave it up to the person that I'm going to endorse, which I kind of figure you know who that will be.
You know, I might put a cold frosty Anheuser-Busch here on opening weekend on that being Harry Roberts, but let me talk about an issue in session. You've been very vocal on tort reform issues. What is the real tort reform issue you think is going to be the hot topic the last 6 weeks of session?
Oh, it's the Joinder bill. You know, there are some big entities that are big donors that want that Joinder bill because they want Joinder in Missouri to go away. But do you understand that Joinder is a freedom that you have that helps you in order to make your case and get justice through our court system? They want to take that away from you. It's a freedom issue.
What's the argument to take it away?
Well, they basically, these big companies are being sued multiple times. Thousands of cases are pending against many companies. Like, for example, Monsanto. They got lots of cases against them. Mallinckrodt, you know, the Tamco, the shingle guy down from Joplin. You know, all said and done, they've given on the order of $3 million to just the senators over time in the form of campaign contributions. Well, you know, I never came down to Jeff City to take away people's right to get justice.
But I've talked about this with you in your office. Just because somebody takes a check from somebody that has a like-minded interest doesn't mean they're corrupt when they keep their consistent position.
I didn't say they're corrupt, but the system is corrosive. Or you might say the system is corrupt. The thing is we have hardwired into our brains, Scott, psychological need to reciprocate when somebody does something nice for us.
I have the book Influence. You signed it for me.
Right.
Yeah.
And it is true. It's been proven multiple studies. You give someone a $10,000 check when they call you up and say, would really like you to consider voting for this, or introduce the bill, or
just
move
common
that
sense.
bill. It is. It's just common sense.
Talk about clean Missouri then. You talk about there's a I would hard to get with you on corrupt, but corrosive makes sense. Clean Missouri, what's it do?
Well, Clean Missouri does a few things. The top four things are it stops the giving of gifts. It puts a $5 ban, a limit on gifts, period. $5 value of gifts. You know, why do you think that so many thousands of dollars are given in the form of gifts? It's because it's effective. These companies, they wouldn't be given gifts if it didn't work. Second thing is it shuts the revolving door. It's got a 2-year ban on legislators and their staff from becoming lobbyists.
Do you believe that's important?
I think it's critically important. I mean, I could give you examples. I probably don't want to do it right here on TV, but you know what I'm probably talking about. People who
you're a senator. You see people you serve with. You get lobbied. And to me, it's interesting to see that you think a two years thing's the right amount of time.
Well, you know, the governor wanted it to be 1 year for every year you served in the legislature. So if you served for 10 years, it would be 10 years you'd be banned.
I don't think Doug Lytle's anti-law enforcement.
Yeah, I don't see any.
What else is in Clean Missouri?
Well, there's the anti-gerrymandering piece, and the fact is,
do you think the state Senate's gerrymandered?
I think that Missouri is less gerrymandered than other states, but there is a little bit that goes on, and it could be made more fair. I mean, if you look at it just on the surface, out of 34 senators, I mean, you've got like 26 of them are Republicans, but if you look at Republicans versus Democrats statewide, it's like 50-50. So why is that? Well, I'm not saying that I want the result of the
Well, folks that live in more spread out places like St. Joseph or Poplar Bluff, you're going to have an advantage. And if you're very compactly situated in very heavy density populations right on the state line.
Right. And
just geography.
I'm not saying that we need to end up with a legislature that exactly mirrors the, the ratio of Republicans and Democrats. But it could be more fair. Like, for example, when they drew the lines last time, they drew Jim Lemke, my chief of staff. His first district became very, very Democrat.
Much harder, yeah.
And you remember Jane Cunningham, she was drawn right out of a district. And I think that was probably done purposefully.
That'd be right. What's the last thing in there?
Well, it would do the sunshine on the legislation, on the legislative branch. It would apply the sunshine law.
Isn't that just fair?
I think it is fair. And as you know, I suffered a lawsuit for my emails, you remember, and guess who was the lawyer? Todd Graves' law firm.
Well, wasn't that the same group that made you citizen or senator of the year before that?
That's exactly true. Well, what I learned out of that process was that there are no laws. It's the Wild West out there as far as what would be covered under the Sunshine Law. Well, this would solve that by forcing the legislature to actually make some laws.
So you're going to have to come back, or we can just do the whole show and chat. But we have to want to thank you for being here this week. We'll have to go to a commercial.
All right. Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. We'll be right back with our Opinion Maker panel. Kevin Engler joins the show after this.
In 2008, Republic Services acquired the Bridgeton landfill in a merger. Since then, we've invested $200 million to clean up the site and to maintain environmental compliance. We do that while staffing the facility 24/7. That's because we support permanent solutions that are safe for our neighbors and clean up the environment. We're committed to doing what's right. That's what drives us every day. We're a part of the community, and we're here for the long haul. Republic Services. We'll handle it from here.
My name is Eric Philippi. I'm a veteran, a carpenter, and a father. When Eric Greitens said he was going to change politics as usual, folks like me didn't think the first thing he'd do as governor was take dead aim at our jobs and our families' livelihoods by working to repeal prevailing wage. Call Governor Greitens. Tell him to protect prevailing wage and to protect my family, not destroy it.
All across Missouri, our new car and truck dealers are building strong local economies. When you buy a car or truck in Missouri, you're helping to support over 20,000 Missouri families who rely on the auto industry for good-paying local jobs. You're also helping fund our communities, schools, first responders, and our roads because dealers generate millions of dollars in tax revenue. Missouri's automobile dealers have been the foundation of our communities for generations and for generations to come. The Missouri Automobile Dealers Association, the heart of Missouri.
At Ameren, Missouri, we know what light can do. It draws people together and chases monsters away. And if you shine it in the right direction, it will light the path for the next generation, showing them what their tomorrow could look like and spotlighting the possibilities that lay in front of them. Investing in our community by lighting the way forward. That's energy at work. Ameren, Missouri.
Welcome back this week in Missouri Politics, joined by Greg Razer, Houseman from Kansas City. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Friend of the show, Tracy McCreery. Thank you for being on.
Glad to be here.
Tom Hannegan, St. Charles. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And the guy that our first proof of concept, we've chased him all over Hell's Half Acre, trying to have him on again. Representative Kevin Engler, former mayor of Farmington. Welcome back, sir.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Only guest who's ever had that as an industrial park named after him.
It's not an industrial park. It's a regular park. It's one of the nicest parks in the state.
I still call it industrial park.
Okay.
Tom Hannegan, the Missouri Non-Discrimination Act. You came to the House of Representatives as a freshman member, and you made this a priority and have done a lot to push that. Tell me where that's at and what it is.
Well, it's a work in progress, actually, still. Sure. This has been going on for about 20 years, I guess, and so the time is now. And luckily, there's some good things happening. First of all, I guess I need to tell you what MONA stands for. Yep. Missouri Non-Discrimination Act. It's not a person's name, but
I remember who's the boss.
We affectionately refer to it as MONA, so it's a good name. So the great thing that's happening right now is there's a lot of people coming to the table. There's a lot of good faith, and it's happening both on the Republican side and the Democratic side. So we have people in the senators We have and in the House, Greg and I are doing it in the House version, so he's the Democrat, I'm the Republican, and then we have senators that are working on this as well. And so I think this is a big awakening that this is becoming a bipartisan issue, where I think people used to think of it as just a Democratic issue. So a lot of the good conversations, a lot of goodwill, a lot of coming to the table on good faith is happening.
Representative McCreery, I remember Jolie Justice working on this in the Senate, actually got it to a vote one time.
Right, it was huge. That was historic, and we ran out of time basically because I think that was on the last day of session. So, yes, Steve McCluckey filed Mona, a version of Mona back in 1998, former state rep. So we have been working on this for a really long time. The time is now to do this. You know, the businesses have led the way on this. The Supreme Court has made some big advances. It's time for the state for our state laws to reflect what's going on in the world.
Kevin Engler, I watched it change last year. I was sitting over on the side gallery.
It's changed. Now, I got to point out this is a role reversal for me because I usually don't play the straight man, but today I'm going to. But yeah, it was a big deal. The first time we've had a significant conversation on the floor of the House. They did it as a symbolic gesture to Jolie, and I was in the Senate with Jolie, and she's a fine person. But they did it on the last day, so it couldn't get to us. But when we talked about it last year, and he gave me time for people to talk, and we gave you and you had 10, 15 members stand up and talk. The surprise was I had 10 to 15 members stand up, and when you were having 60, 70 plus year old men standing up and say it's time we change. This issue,
put a pragmatic spin on it, though. You actually took and did some deals last session that I thought took this from a cause to actually the sausage making of legislation. You put some pragmatism into the issue, I think.
I thought we could get one more step. I thought this year we could get there, but through some other things, we took a bad vote on something to try to kill that bill that was on, and I was hoping that we would show that we had enough strength to pass it. We've got some, we're going to make some incremental progress on it, but we've still got some difficulties. My people, when I tell them, do you know that you can still fire somebody in Missouri if they tell you they're gay? Oh, no. Even my religious right. Now, do you think that would be a Christian attitude? Do you think that what Christ's attitude would be? Oh, no. I'm getting more and more views of that on just the basic discrimination. Where we get into the weeds here lately is the transgendered, and then what do we do about that, and where does that go with bathrooms? And we start getting away from the main the main thing. And I'd say in the next 10 to 15 years we may get there, but we're gonna have to make some incremental change.
You're passionate about this, but there's an economic development reason to do this as well, isn't there?
Well, there's absolutely an economic development reason. If you want a company like Amazon, the governor was pushing that. Both St. Louis and Kansas City were trying to get it. Amazon doesn't want to come to a state that legalizes discrimination. They're not going to go to North Carolina. The NCAA, you saw what they did to the state of North Carolina when they passed their discrimination bill. If we want to play on a world stage, we need to act like a world-class state. And part of that is being opening and welcoming to everybody. And Missouri is not at the moment.
Give me a prediction what year this passes.
In the next 5 years.
Prediction?
I'll agree with Greg, and it won't happen in an election year. It'll have to be an off year.
My goal is before I term out, so we got some time here. We got 6 years. But by the 8th year and I'm terming out, it's going to be done.
What do you think?
I was hoping we'd get it done, the first part of it, the anti-firing, the basic discrimination while I'm in here. It's not going to happen. I would say that in the next 5 years, at least something that will take us in the right direction will get there.
Greg Razer, you're on the budget. The House pushed the budget out there this week. Tell me what was in there that's different than maybe the governor wanted, the Senate wanted, or last year.
I think the big takeaway, so this is my second year on the Budget Committee. So last year, having sat on that committee, Republicans had just won all the statewide offices. Trump is in office. Folks were feeling really good about themselves. Pushed through what I consider a lot of bad things in the budget. This year, Trump's numbers are coming down. We obviously know the trouble that the governor is having. So a lot of his recommendations got ignored. I want to say nice things about Chairman Fitzpatrick. He did a great job on the budget, in particular when it comes to higher education. He worked out a deal. We really, the last 2 years, have knocked higher education down. This year we didn't pick them back up, but at least we didn't kick them while they were down.
Kick them again.
So that was a big thing. And then the transportation budget, I do want to talk about this real quick. We have got to do something about our roads and bridges in Missouri. This is something we're going to have to debate. We haven't raised the fuel tax since 1996. And if we're at a point in the state of Missouri and Jefferson City where we can't even build roads and bridges anymore, then what in the world are we doing in Jefferson City?
What's the takeaway from the budget, Representative?
Well, we're going to spend within our means. We're not like Illinois, and we did that. It was much tougher. The cutting today is different than what was cutting in 08. I've been here longer than all three of these people combined, and in 08 and 09, when we had to cut $1 billion, it was huge. We're doing a good job on that. What I think we have to look to, the more alarming thing to me this past week was the Senate approving a multi-billion-dollar tax cut and package in 4 hours with 2 amendments. Now, it's not finalized, but I said on the floor the other day, the Senate used to be the deliberatory body, the one that you go to and you say, well, they'll fix it. Now it's, well, the House will fix it. Because the House,
seen that a few times.
I used to never see that. We see that all the time now because of some of the functioning of the Senate has broken down.
Representative Hannegan, interesting thing, the budget, there were some demands made. When we talk about higher ed, we're talking about Mizzou, and we're talking about Missouri State, the two high-profile ones, but Mizzou's had some problems. Mizzou's trying to change and adapt. I think it was important, if you're just going to kick them no matter what they do, what's the point of them listening to the legislature?
Well, you know, it's a come full circle, though. I think that there was some heartburn over past administration and what their challenges were. I think everybody's on board. They look now at the university. They see new leadership. They have the new president, new chancellors, and so there's a positive vibe now. And I think it's, you know, who's at the table. And so I think good things are going to happen, and we're recognizing them, and they're going to get some of this money back that they need.
You know, Scott, they say the best time to kick somebody is when they're down. So.
Tracy, what's a takeaway?
Well, I think the budget really lacked compassion. The budget is a moral document, and we really left a lot of people in very dire straits. Disabled people, people that depend on the government to help them pay for prescriptions. So I'm a bit embarrassed by the lack of compassion we showed for the needy.
Let's talk about an issue that's all about compassion. Representative Engler, the opioid crisis. Tell me what the House has been working on.
Well, a bill that I thought was excited about. One of our doctors, we have 2 doctors, and I tell you what, he's brilliant from Rolla. I mean, he was a doctor of pharmacy first, and now he's a surgeon. And he's looked at all of it. So the guy has got some knowledge. And he said the first step, and I agree with this, is the doctor should only be able to prescribe 7 days of opioids. Because that's your addiction starts after that. And a lot of times, I went to the dentist just a couple months ago, and they gave me 30 Oxycontin. I took 1. I didn't even really want to take it, and I got 29 sitting there. But if I would have taken it, there's a possibility that I would have gotten addicted. And what he's saying is, if we're really going to prescribe this pain meds, then they should be revisited after a week, and you get a hold of your doctor. Maybe you just call and say, call me if you're still in extreme pain. But if you're not, just don't keep taking them, and I'm not going to give you an extra 20 pills that could be sold on the open market, or your kids or your grandkids or a burglar come in and steal them and have a secondary market. I think it's innovative, and I think it's the way to go for part of the problem.
Greg Razer, folks know you as a rising star in Kansas City, but you're a Boot Heel guy like myself. Cooter.
Old country boy from Pemiscot County.
Our home is being ravaged by this. It's a problem. You can't, liberty, whatever you want to say, whatever buzzword, it is a problem.
It's a huge problem. I think here is, if there's a silver lining politically, I think that if you look in the House of Representatives, Representative Rader has taken the lead on this, all the way up to Claire McCaskill in the United States Senate. This is something that people on both sides of the aisle recognize. Now, how we fix the problem, we have disagreements on. But people are aware that it's a problem, and I think that's hopeful for the future.
Does this bill pass?
Yes.
Get signed by, I think the governor's issued a willingness to sign it, right?
I believe so.
Already came out and did a form, yeah.
It's not the total solution, but it's a step.
What do you think? Does this happen?
I think it will pass, and I also really liked Representative Jay Barnes' bill that helps people figure out how to dispose of unused drugs. That's a huge deal too. Senator Engler said it best, which is you have these leftover prescriptions. You know, parents go out of town for a night, and there's Oxycontin or whatever sitting in the medicine cabinet. It's a huge problem. So we need proper disposal.
He added an amendment on the bill that we were talking about on the opioids, that if you want to put yourself on it, creates a list, just like our gambling addiction. Put me on the list so that all the doctors know, I'm a drug addict. Don't prescribe. If I come off and I'm going through recovery, don't prescribe to me because that costs us very little, and it may only be effective for this many, but if it's effective for any, if it saves some of our people, to your point, I have people in the Parkland area that are wealthy, that are poor, that are addicted. And if we don't start addressing it, whether it be Republican or Democrat, the Boot Hill or Kansas City, it's going to destroy our country.
You've seen a lot of state government come and go. Jay Barnes, the committee he chairs, is going to issue a report next week about the governor. What happens with that report?
Boy, I don't know. I wasn't optimistic when they formed the committee. I just think that without having the legal abilities to do some of the things, I don't know what do they say if they come up and call for his impeachment. That's the only thing that basically can do to get anything done. Just adverse publicity. The Post-Dispatch every day gives him that.
Tracy McCreery, if there's credible allegations of some domestic violence issue, does that change the situation?
It really does change the situation, and I'm confident in the group of our colleagues that are working on this committee that they'll come up with the right conclusion.
They're the right guy chairing the committee, though.
Absolutely. I really like who's on the committee. I like that Jay Barnes is the chair. I spoke to him, before we passed this, and I have confidence in him, and also with Gina Mitten, who is the ranking Democrat
I thanked her
on it.
today for her work because they're putting in hour after. They're taking this very serious. This isn't,
yeah.
Oh yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. They're looking at everything.
Be a quiet room in caucus when he issues his report, won't it?
Yes, yes. He commands the stage. He's
Sometimes
smart.
we're in the right place in the right time in politics. It seems like
absolutely.
he is.
Very confident in him and his committee.
Greg Razer with a minute left. Who won the week?
It has to be Stephen Weber and the staff of the Missouri Democratic Party. They've worked for months to build this slate of candidates, so bravo to them.
Who won the week?
Senator Claire McCaskill. She's been all over town halls, opening Democratic Party office.
Cool to see her in Jefferson City.
Yeah, and she did a great rally with working people.
A place she's not unfamiliar with. Who won the week?
Well, I'm a little biased. My seatmate, Representative Gene Evans. Gene has been a kind of a star and rising, like Greg over there.
Maybe had the best session of everybody in the House so far.
She's got some hard, heavy lifting bills. She's got everything from
real stuff.
Yeah, from sunrise,
sunshine law change. Yeah.
Thank you, and to shackling of women prisoners, to hemp oil, to the marriage issue, the age of marriage. So she's doing great.
Who won the week?
I think the media did because they're going to get a lot of ad revenue. To their point, getting all these people into the election. I've seen Claire McCaskill have 50 town halls in the 6th year. I don't know what happened to her the first 5 years of this term, but then we go out and not only shows up in Farmington every 6th year. I wonder why that is. It's kind of like the comet. The main thing though is putting all these no names. It sounds good until those of the people around me that weren't opposed until the last day, until they put some people. I had to call 4 people in St. Genevieve to find out who that
Speaking of the last minute, we're going to be out of time.
Woo.
My winner of the week was Josh Hawley. If you thought he couldn't stand up to Claire McCaskill toe-to-toe when his press conference started, you knew by the end. See you next week on This Week in Missouri Politics. This Week in Missouri Politics, brought to you by Spire and Sterling Bank.
Melanie's a good kid. I call her a kid. She's not a kid, but she's a kid to me. She is kind and complicated.
She's kind of a little quirky, but she has the greatest personality. She's always up to do things, wants to do fun stuff. So Melanie has Down syndrome. She has some definitely health issues. She has a speech impediment that makes it difficult for her to communicate. So a lot of things she has to maybe show you, or she has a hard time getting words out.
Yeah, where was this one taken? Is that your aunt's house?
She gets up and then she gets herself dressed. Puts her dirty clothes in the hamper. She's very self-sufficient that way. She comes into the kitchen and staff provide her medication for her and she takes it. And then staff prepares breakfast for her. We have her wipe off the table. She might need a prompt to do that, but she does that on her own. 3 days a week she goes to program for Easter seals, and she does a lot of activities throughout the day with that.
She is thriving with independence, being in this house, in this program. She's very happy to be here. This is her home. It's an amazing journey that has happened to her.
She says she'll visit her family, but she wants to come home. So she feels like this is her home. And there's nothing you can make better than for her to be like, this is my home. We're working on different things all the time. So it's a continuous work in progress. We're looking at having her learn her address and phone number. That's been difficult for her, just to memorize it. But we do repetition every day.
You want to go look for some DVDs?
Okay.
Okay.
I don't know where she'd be if there wasn't for Easter seals. She would be probably having a less fulfilling life.
I'm very grateful to Easter Seals for the opportunity that she's been given. I've seen huge changes in her since she's been here to be on her own. And this is the best way that she can be on her own.
Where's your home? Here? Yeah. This is your home.
And I love this job. There's not a day that I don't want to not come here. And I know I'm making a difference. You can see that Melanie's happy, and that's probably our biggest goal, is we want our individuals to have rights and freedoms, and you can tell that she's very happy with that. She gets to live her life on her terms, and she's happy doing it.
Who's in this picture with you?
Daddy. She lost her dad about 4 years ago, and they were very tight. They were very close, and I'm sure he's smiling down right now.
We help people with disabilities be as independent as possible. We help them live out their life as full members of our community. People with disabilities want to do the same things you and I do. They want to work, they want to be valued, they want to have friends, and we help them achieve those goals.
We have to set priorities as a society, as a state, of what's important to us. And I think supporting individuals with disabilities is a really important thing for us to do. It's honoring the dignity of every human being and what their capabilities are and what their potential is, and allowing them to pursue whatever that is.
Many people with developmental disabilities need lifetime care. So we have a choice as a community. We can put them in institutions and nursing homes, which is expensive and inhumane, or we can help them live in the community and be as independent as possible. We can teach them the skills that maximizes their ability, whatever that is. That's good not only for the individual with a disability and their family, but it's good for the entire community.
That happiness that comes, that fulfillment, that dignity that people are allowed to have when we embrace the opportunities that are out there for people with disabilities is something that ripples across society. And so it obviously has an impact for that individual, but for their neighbor to see that individual working and having those interactions, and then that spreading across our state is an important thing. I think it should color how we view the world and what our priorities are.
The hope and opportunity that Easter Seals offers to people with disabilities would not be possible without the support of our community. Our donors, volunteers, neighborhoods that welcome people with disabilities, and our champions in Jefferson City make all of this possible.